Having adventured with his bounty, the hunter returns to collect his fee. And while that does imbue him with a shiny improved set of armor, it's not like the foundling Mandalorian can leave another foundling in Imperial hands. Especially one as cute as Baby Yoda. The man with no name transforms into Lone Wolf and Cub. On this week's The Mandalorian, Chapter 3, The Sin. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Mandalorian. So yes, of course, all the spoilers are coming your way. Also do want to remind you about our quick jump index system. In the description below, we'll have this entire review's time-stamped, codified. You can jump to the end first, you can watch the beginning last, you can watch this review in any order you'd like. Alright, so Episode 3, The Sin. Which becomes our not an unexpected move for The Mandalorian, but as much of this show does, is handled extremely well. And I like how they don't make the Mandalorian, Mando, as everyone calls him, I guess, a quick transition. The fact that the first thing that he does is land and take his bounty straight to the client to get paid. I appreciate that. There's not a lot of wavering in that. We get our cute little moment, of course, where we've got little Baby Yoda taking the ball off of the controls and stuff in the ship. So we get a little emotional connection right here. And, of course, that has its great payoff at the end of the episode as well. But the fact that he is focused on doing this thing for his people. He has a job, he has a bounty, he has made a commitment. And again, it's not just fulfilling the bounty that he's been hired to do. It's not just getting the payment. It's what that payment represents. You know, in this case, it's 2 stacks of 10 ingots of Beskar steel. Just one of them was able to make a pauldron for him. With these 2 stacks, ultimately he's able to make a full cuirass, a chest piece, plus some whistling birds, great little mini guided missiles, wrist missiles, which is awesome. And what it means also for the extra Beskar to use for foundlings and the rest of the community. This is a huge thing. This is not something that he can just push away and back off of. And yet, of course, our man with no name, our Mandalorian with no name, does have a heart. He does have a connection. Even again, we have, with the forging sequences, we're getting flashbacks to him being left by his parents inside a little cellar basement somewhere to protect him. And of course, the minute he's in there, explosion outside, assumption, parents dead. So all of this brings up a lot of his own youth. Which is, of course, why he's able to, kind of gets him to finally turn around and go back. Again, handled very nicely as little Baby Yoda is pulled away after he turns him into the client. He gets that little cry, just that little reach out, these small things. And that's where he begins to turn. What are your plans? You don't ask these questions. It's the bounty guild. This is the thing. Once the bounty is turned in, you forget all about what has just happened, and you move on. The client reminds him of this. Grief reminds him of this in the bar. And again, it's a great, I think they use that great transition. It pulls at him, but it's not a turnaround thing. He wants to leave. He wants to get the next bounty, get the next job, focus on that, and move on to the next thing. Give me something far away. Give me that Mon Calamari right there. I'll go pick him up. And even gets the ship, which is great. Gets as far as to reach out for the controls and ball's gone that the little baby was playing with. Damn it. So it's a great transition for the character. I think I like the fact that, again, he commits to his bounty. It takes a while for him to really make that turn. Of course, he does it in one episode. We don't want to drag these things out. And leads in some of the most badassery Mandalorian fighting sequences we have seen yet. Now, while this show started out very much with a Western feel, Star Wars itself has a Japanese basis. The original A New Hope is based very much on the Hidden Fortress, an old Japanese Kurosawa film. It's got very much of that feel, and so adapting a lot of Japanese themes works very well with Star Wars. Specifically, we are moving from the spaghetti western into, like I mentioned before, Lone Wolf and Cub. Now, Lone Wolf and Cub was a Japanese manga created in 1970 by Kazuo Koike, if I have that pronunciation correct, and then later became a very popular series of films, which is where I became familiar with it. A very violent manga, but basically deals with a samurai, the shogunate executioner, the samurai that works as the executioner for the shogun. His family, or his wife, is killed. His people are wiped out, and he is framed to betray the shogun. The only survivor of the massacre at his house was, of course, his young infant son. So taking him, he has to escape and ends up becoming a force against the clan that framed him. He actually becomes an assassin. We got an assassin duo between this badass samurai and this small little baby. At a point, there's like an armored carriage. There's all sorts of cool stuff in with it. A very violent manga, but very much in line with where this show is going. Is now we have the badass warrior that now has to protect the small baby. Not a helpless baby in any sense, but still small and in need of protective, certainly against Imperial forces. So it's a great transition. Again, it's great reflecting back to a lot of Star Wars' core bases. And again, just gives us an amazing duo that we get to see a Star Wars variant of a samurai and child. In this case, an armored Mandalorian and a baby force-wielding Yoda. Yeah. Now, we implied previously that the Mandalorians are sort of a refugee race, and we narrow that down a little bit more here with this, really leaning into the Imperial Purge of Mandalore, which drove the Mandalorians away from their home and deep underground. The client even says something that finding the Beskar steel was actually easier than finding a Mandalorian, which shows in place not only the rarity of Beskar steel, but the hyper rarity of a Mandalorian, how much they are underground. And when he does return to his people to get the forge, to get his new cuirass and everything, they also talk about the fact that most of the Mandalorians hide underground. They only allow one or two to come out at any particular time, probably to keep crosshairs off of them. Now, with the fall of the with the Empire, that might change things, but of course, the anger at the Imperials still heavily there, which is why not only when our Mandalorian comes in with all this Beskar steel, which is going to get a bit of attention, maybe a little bit of jealousy, people wanting a piece of his armor, but also because it bears the Imperial insignia, a lot of anger and frustration. You are working for an Imperial, the people that betrayed the group that betrayed our people and sent us into this. So we get a real nice insight into the psychology of the Mandalorians, how they're sort of, again, they're refugees that are pushed underground. There's a lot of frustration to that, even to the point of fighting amongst themselves at times. However, I love how our armor brings up the fact of the Mandalorian has never taken off his helmet or allowed it taken off. The rumor that we had in the beginning episode now being a bit more confirmed. We've seen the kids running around. The helmets never come off. So we're never going to see his face, which I think is perfect. We don't need to. He is great the way that this is presented, and it keeps that great feel for the Mandalorians. So yeah, that he has never had his tail helmet taken off, he's never taken it off himself, and this is our way. becoming another one of those statements. A common theme we have here. This is our way between the Mandalorians. For a rancher, I have spoken. You got a lot of these final word statements in between people. Very cool, very cultural, but I like the extra insight we get into the Mandalorians, which really pays off at the end. Alright, so one thing I did want to touch on is hinted at as our Mandalorian goes to retrieve Baby Yoda and listens into a bit of the discussion between the client and our scientists here. We don't get to hear much, but there is one line that stands out. Our scientists seemingly trying to protect him. We want to deliver him alive, but the client delivers the line, just extract the necessary material. Which, I am sorry to say, folks, probably implies we're going to be talking again about midichlorians. I know! I don't disagree. But, considering that Yoda himself, and Yaddle, the other Yoda-type creature, we don't have a species name, so that's why I'm calling Baby Yoda. I don't know if it's a girl, I don't know if it's a boy. Yoda's the one we are all familiar with. It's cute. I'm just calling it Baby Yoda. But I know we're just talking about the species. But Yoda itself, an extremely powerful Force user, which I think there's even a line in the old, prequel trilogy, talking about a super high midichlorian count for Yoda. I actually can't remember if it's that or one of the Clone Wars cartoons. But the point being is that the assumption, because this is a small baby, that something could be extracted of, the only thing that could be of use to them would be the powers of the Force. And so extracting midichlorians from Yoda might actually be useful for the Empire recovering, or some warlord or anything like that that wants to sort of take charge, a future Snoke type character. Yeah, we're going to tie it all together, I'm pretty sure. So, I just want to give you that warning. Expect to hear more about midichlorians. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what our client was referring to when he was talking about extractions. So this is probably going to be something, like I said, we're going to hear again. I just want to warn you. And yes, the assumption there, of course, was that if you could remove the midichlorians from a Baby Yoda, you could inject them into another individual and they would have Force powers. That's what I'm implying here. Alright, and finally I want to talk about our progression of badassery that happens within this episode. We have already established our Mandalorian fighter is a badass. We did that in episode 1. Not a total complete badass, as that Mudhorn sort of wiped him up. And yes, that can't be his insignia. It can't be a signet because he didn't feel it was an honorable kill. He got help from an enemy we didn't know was his enemy, Baby Yoda. But certainly with the new Beskar armor, definitely stepping up his badassery. But I love we get to see that that arc of going after groups and enemies. First off, I do want to just comment again how freaking beautiful this show is. Just the art direction, the effects, everything is done and layered so well. And one of my favorite looks, I have to say, is the dirty stormtroopers. I have to say, when they come out, when he goes to deliver Baby Yoda, and the door opens and the dirty stormtroopers come out, there's such a worn edge to it. It looks so good. It looks so believable. We're not getting the shiny white and reflective surfaces of the Imperial hallways. This is a dusty village with battle-worn troops, and it looks that way. And when the Mandalorian infiltrates to go and get Yoda, Baby Yoda, again, the looks are amazing. There's a dust fill in the air, which gives everything just an incredibly realistic, gritty feel to it. And we get to see his abilities of infiltrating quietly, taking people out one by one. We got our tough stormtroopers, and he's able to take out the small groups quietly, quickly. Gets to Baby Yoda, and then we get, again, our awesome progression. With a child in his hand, he is still able to go up against groups of stormtroopers. The numbers increase until he finally is almost able to get out. Then he's surrounded by the large numbers, and then we get to see the whistling birds in action. Just sets down, okay, this is valuable, let me set it down. Let me just be real cool. It's all great, everyone. It shows why Mandalorians are so incredibly dangerous. Again, baby in one arm, he's able to take out a squad of stormtroopers. So we get our individuals, we get our group, and then as he leaves the client's house, all of the fobs going off in the bar. Greef Karga said he had hired everyone here and no one could do it, only you, Mando. It's such an awesome image just through the bar. All of those lights go on. It's not just a single stormtrooper. It's not just a pair. It's not just a group. Now it's the entire town he has to go up against. Which you knew was going to be our Scene of the Week for this week. Because, come on, it's a single Mandalorian against an entire town. And it's awesome. We get Greef Karga coming up, making a statement. Put it down. Maybe I'll let you go. This is the bounty. This is what we agreed to. I got my payment. A little Beskar steel myself. And then just progresses. And again, we get to see all of the different armory. We get to see all of the different bits throughout this whole sequence. We see the whistling birds do their action. We get to see the flamethrowers doing their action, both as he escapes and against the larger crowd. More disintegrations and seeing really the psychological impact. You could have a whole town against someone, and when people blow up and completely disintegrate out of existence, that's going to give you a pause. You're not just thinking of potential wounding here. Oh, I might get hit, but maybe it won't be too bad. Maybe I recover. You don't recover from a disintegration. So it's and then we get the town comes up, and then he jumps in the speeder and uses that with droids, which he doesn't like. Still willing to go with. Why the speeder was right there, a little convenient, but we don't care. It all looked great. Karga takes him out. We still get narrowed down, and at the end, despite him taking out a number of the villagers and holding his own, against pure numbers, there's only so far that you can go. And we still get that nice moment between Mandalorian and Baby Yoda of like, I'm sorry, I'm going to be here. I will protect you. I will do everything that I can. You get that real moment. And then the Mandalorians show up. Yes, I'm tearing up because it was so awesome to see it. Yeah, it's cartoony, but I don't care. Seeing all those Mandalorians coming in with their jetpacks, dropping down. I mean, again, we saw the danger of one Mandalorian. Now we got a whole group with chain guns and everything just mowing everyone down. It was just, what a topper. And again, also shows that while the Mandalorians may fight amongst themselves, they are still one people. They're still fighting for each other and maybe what they think is right. We haven't dived into a whole lot of the Mandalorian ethical approach towards things. Yes, weapons are their religion. But, who are more of the Mandalorian people? We caught some in Clone Wars and stuff, but even then they were an embattled group. So it would be interesting to find out where they are now as refugees. The fact that they stick together, willing to move everyone from where they are now to someplace else to protect the one Mandalorian is awesome. And so yeah, just a beautiful way to end it. And of course with Greef Karga showing up the last minute on the ship, of course, but getting shot. And I like that they didn't kill Greef, that they had the shot hit the Beskar steel in his pocket so that we don't lose Carl Weathers. I like Carl Weathers. It's fun to keep people around. I don't like when they always take everyone out. We got to keep some characters to maintain and move forward. And of course, he might be a little bit of an enemy now, sending people up against the Mandalorian in the future. So I'm glad they didn't take him out. And then, of course, they leave with the awesome scene of little Baby Yoda reaching for that ball and him just taking the ball and handing it to him and going back to his ship. Great way to turn things all the way around back to the beginning and give us our wonderful emotional satisfaction at the end. After seeing the Mandalorians just kick major butt. Oh, and of course we did get a little foreshadowing bit there at the final end as our Mandalorian flies up its jetpack and gives a final salute to our Mandalorian hero in the line, "I gotta get me one of those." Yeah, or I gotta get one of those. I'm sure said I gotta get me one of those. But yeah, you gotta complete the Mandalorian armor there. Though I have to say, as cool as I like the foreshadowing on that, and I love the jetpack scenes in that, I gotta say, just from a personal standpoint, the shot of the Mandalorian flying the jetpack, it was a little on the cheesy side. Again, cartoonish, I'm fine with it. I'm not complaining. I just gotta say, little cheesy. But yeah, those jetpacks are awesome. Alright, well I think that pretty much covers everything. Now, next week, well, we're assuming people are going to be going after the Mandalorian. I'm not even sure where his plans are going. And I have to say, one thing I kind of like about the show is they don't give us our sneak preview for next week. We have to approach every episode kind of unknown of what's going to happen and where it's going to go. So I have to say, I kind of like that. You know, it builds that anticipation of what's going to happen next without, turning the brain on and thinking, oh, we saw this scene, so we're going to see this, so we're going to do that. Don't know what's going to happen next. He's got to find some place to go, something to do with this. I have no idea what his plans are. But there's going to be people coming after him, so there's going to be some more badass fighting, so that's all we need, right? Anyway, so that will wrap things up. Thank you again for joining me with this review. And if you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. Thoughts, ideas, and comments, just throw those down in the section below. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. The massive Mandalorian fight, how awesome was that? And where do you think we go to now? What is the Mandalorian's planned destination? Got any thoughts? Throw those down in the section below. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. Please subscribe. A lot more episodes of Mandalorian to come. We've got the mid-season finale of Walking Dead this weekend. And, of course, we are still halfway through the final season of Mr. Robot. So don't miss any of those reviews. You won't if you're a subscriber. And do that by clicking this button right here. And be sure to hit the notification bell that will let you know whenever any new reviews drop. And then we'll go ahead and throw a couple of those latest reviews right here for you to check out. So, that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.